Welcome to the New World Order Showcase Podcast. Your host, Jill Hart, the coach's Alchemist. Couldn't be more excited to have you join us today. On this podcast, we celebrate the champions of change, the up-and-coming life, health and transformational coaches who are fearlessly stepping forward to make a difference in the world. Get ready for inspiring stories, practical tips, and powerful moments that will motivate you to make a positive change in your life and those around you. We're happy to have you join us on this incredible journey as we dive into the world of life, health, and transformational coaches who are lighting up the path towards a better tomorrow.
Hi, and welcome to the New World Order Showcase Podcast. Today we have with us Ann Crawford. Ann is a personal empowerment coach who specializes in helping people with career transitions. So welcome to the show, Ann. It's nice to have you with us.
Thank you, Jill. I'm honored.
We were talking a little bit before we started recording about the military, because you help a lot of military people transition, and being aligned with your ideals and what you want to do in life as opposed to what you have to do in life. So we'll be talking about that. But first, tell us how you got started in this field. What's your story?
My story, I think, starts out just like everybody else with that alignment component here. So I didn't know what I wanted to do either. And it actually wears you very thin when you go from job to job and you're just not happy. But I started a cleaning business, to be honest with you, with somebody else. And it was perfect because I was able to be home with my children and drive them to school and things like that. I had phenomenal clients that were kind and lovely. So it was really a great foundation for me understanding how I love to be a business owner. So you take that one component. Then I started getting heavily involved with Cheryl Richardson and her work, and that blossomed personal growth workshops with two other professional women. We did that for 4 years, and then you take another component where I'm like, oh man, I've always, since I've been little, loved to know what makes people tick. We've all got emotions, we all have trauma, we all have stresses. Your childhood plays, I'd say, a 99.9% impact on what you become as an adult, how you handle things. From those personal growth workshops, so many people said, Ann, you have got to go to coaching school. So I did, and I got certified. And I chose career transitions because I had wonderful friends, professionals that were saying, I actually hate my job, or my boss is a jerk, or, oh, I'm killed to go work with horses. And I saw these talented people just rotting away psychologically and physically. And I said, this can be no more. I have to do something about this. I myself went through that. There's got to be a way. And that propelled me to go into career transitions. So that's my story.
I love it. I love it. And it's really an important gap that you fill in the marketplace, because so many people are in jobs that we call it burnout, but it's just because they're not aligned with what they're supposed to be doing. They may be paid lots of money for training to be able to do it, but it doesn't make their heart sing.
No. It's very sad, and a lot of the ones that I see, not only the military, which if they've been in for a while, but it's also like 50-year-olds. They've done what they've done for a long time. They've worked themselves up that salary level. Now they're stuck, and they're like, "Wow, I've got teenage children. I have a home I have to support. How can I possibly change careers and make the same money?" But it is a process. It's just like going to the therapist, and I never compare, coaches don't compare themselves with therapists. There's no way. But it's almost like you have to do your internal work because you have been living for somebody else and not yourself. And that's where it starts, really. Anything can be done. It just takes times and certain steps to acquire it. That's all.
Yeah, and having a coach really does help with that because you may have ideas about how or things that you want to do, and they may seem like dreams to you, but
Uh,
I'm here to tell you, if you can dream it, it can happen.
it's so true. And people that are very unhappy will say, oh, that's ridiculous. But it really is true. If you align yourself with the correct people and then they feed your passions and they introduce you to somebody else, we can't do this thing called life alone. We need support all around us at all times.
And people do show up in your life to support whatever the thing is that you want to do. We're creating a reality all the
Mhm.
time. You know, if you're living a miserable life, well, you have yourself to thank because you created it. Sorry to say, but you know, have better thoughts, daydream more, think about what you want, not
Mhm.
about what you don't want,
Right.
and you're much more likely to realize it in your environment because it just that's how reality works. I,
Absolutely. It's truly a mindset. And I'm not degrading anybody who's been through horrific things because many people have been through trauma and abuse and accidents and all that. You have the right to digest that and live with it. But your key to your success is that mindset that we all have here. You can either do with doom and gloom, or you can say, I need help. I'm not managing this correctly. Or let's talk about gratitude. And there you go. It changes everything.
it does change everything, and it can even change the people around you.
Hmm.
You know, if you they call it love bombing, but generally that's a negative term. But if you love bomb people, they can't help but love you back.
Yeah.
It's just human nature. And if you if you find yourself in a position where you have to deal with somebody that you really is driving you crazy, a lot of the it's driving you crazy part is stuff you're making up in your head.
Yeah.
And you're allowing yourself to react to whatever it is they're doing or saying or however they're being. You can take responsibility for that and you can own own your own feelings about it and
Hmm.
then make a decision, and it's always about making the decision to change how you're going to interact with that person.
Right.
And you know, it's not all going to be roses and
No,
no thorns, but it will get better. I,
it will.
and that's just a little step you can take. When you're talking about military, transitioning out of the military into the regular everyday workforce, do you do you work with people mostly on in terms of helping them find new jobs or um, careers or self-employment? What does that kind of look like?
What does it look like? Well, I work with active duty and I work with veterans. So there's two different sets. So the
Mhm.
active duties are really fresh. They're coming out. I would say they range it. Well, I shouldn't say they range from a certain age, but the bulk of them are in the 30s. So they went in at 18, 21. They finished college and went in and had a nice career. How do I help them? Well, some of them are really have found careers in the military that can be transferred into a civilian workplace, like the financial people, there's psychological services, there's great managers and things like that. It's when I had a client a long time ago that was a sniper, and he said, well, Anne, what do I do? First of all, I don't want to tell people what I did. I said, well, there's different ways. And he didn't want to go into the police department where that would have been acceptable or anything else. I said, it's not about the moment that you shot. your target. It's about the preparing for it, the team leadership, the training. Let's talk about that. Then we talked about what his heart wanted to put himself with. Is it children, disabled veterans? Where did he want to go with that? And I'd say 90% of the people want to make a difference in this world. So the career wants to align with a project or a personality or a company that's doing good things for good people. And he ended up really going with a company that does a lot of products that deal with disabled veterans or people in accidents. He was kind of like in that demographic type thing. It's really breaking down for the veterans and the active duty. What skill sets do you love? Not what you hated. What did you love to do? What do you feel you are professional at? And so many people don't, oh, I don't know, everyone else did this and everyone had to do it. I said, but they didn't do it like you did. And that's when the key kind of clicks the lock open and they're like, yeah, actually, I guess I'm pretty good at this. It's finding out who you are first and then aligning them with professions that they never thought of that they can approach on the different job sites. If I have connections, I'll say, well, I know the CEO of that company, I'll introduce you. But I don't normally find them jobs. I inspire them to have options to look for different possibilities. That's basically. The veterans are a whole different ballgame because, like you said, they come out and they were thrown into the wolves, especially if they're in their 40s, 50s, and they've worked at Uncle John's mechanic shop or the police department because somebody told them, my best friend works there, I'll get you a job there. But it's not what they really wanted to do. And it, like the rest of everybody listening, it catches up with you if you're not doing something that you really enjoy doing. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you have to leave feeling, I'm a good person. I've made a difference in some small way. So that's what I see with the veterans and active duty guys.
Yeah. And there's I interview so many coaches, and a lot of them do the same things, but everybody does it differently. And everyone is unique, and everyone calls to their own group of people.
Right.
It's so amazing. And I I have a special place in my heart for veterans and people that are active duty and trying to transition into a different world. I was raised in the military. My dad was an officer. And so I really can relate to how difficult it can be. I know my first husband was a subsailor. My second husband is a veteran also.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I'm really familiar with all of the things that you go through and trying to sort out the what makes you special question. And that's a really interesting thing to explore with somebody else who's gifted at helping you ask the right questions of yourself without looking for any specific answer. And
right.
I
think there's
sure.
no right or wrong. And if you start saying, well, you mean you're not interested in this or so what? They're just not. We're all wired differently. I do find that my heart does lie with the veterans and active duty too, because of the things that they've gone through. Not every civilian can see the things they see. I mean, it's hard to digest. And when they come out, a lot of them don't want to talk about it. But I encourage them on the surface to, first of all, to work with a VA, get good therapy along the way. I'm certainly not a therapist, but I will talk to them about, let's talk about triggers. Because I had a truck driver who was a fuel tank driver, but he got fired because he lost his temper on the road so much. And when I told him, I said, what does black and white, right is wrong mean? Oh, those are the things that we talk about in the military. And I said, and what does standing still mean to you? And he paused and he got a little bit emotional. He goes, well, if I stand still, I'm going to blow up. And I said, well, where was all the conflict when you were a truck driver? And it clicked. Oh my gosh, traffic jams. I used to sit there in the traffic jams. I said, do you think that possibly could be a subconscious trigger for you? He goes, well, I never thought about it because, he was in society, very well liked, calm, funny man. He goes, I never thought of it that way. I said, work with a VA and I'll work with you. And I said, instead of long haul, what other options to trucking, since he loved it so much, could he do? And he came to prepare for the interview. And I said, and you're going to tell him about your adventure with the post-traumatic stress. Oh, I won't get hired. I said, if you're aligned with the correct company, and we seeked out military-friendly companies, you will tell them, this is to your benefit, trust me. And he did. And they go, don't worry about it. We'll do short-term trucking. We'll do off the highway routes for you. And if you start to have an attack, start to get angry, pull over. It's okay. Take 5 minutes and keep on going. What more could you ask for? I mean,
Yeah.
it's just, you have to listen to your clients and see, and then hopefully they'll open up to you and tell you these things. But they're just keeping more inside than normal citizens sometimes. And that's, my heart goes out to them in many ways because they're doomed in this civilian world to just come back and everything is just wonderful for them all the time. It's just different.
Yeah, it's just different. And things that they might not even recognize, like you're just
Yeah.
talking about the guy who's a truck driver, a trigger that, it's a subconscious thing that he knew before that, if you're standing still, you're a target.
Yeah.
And it didn't even register in his conscious mind enough to realize that, hey, I'm safe. I can sit here in traffic. No one's going to shoot me.
That's right. That's true. And it takes a lot because traffic jams happen every day. There's,
Oh, yeah.
I've
I've driven a truck before, and believe me, there's nothing so exciting as being in a truck in traffic and having to, get to an exit ramp. Like Los
oh,
Angeles comes to mind, in New
oh
York
man,
City.
good luck
It's
with
just
that.
like, I can totally empathize with him.
Oh man,
But to
it's tough.
have that in the back of your mind where, oh, I'm just a target, it's like, that would be horrific.
Yeah,
Let's see.
it's a lot of triggers for them. Loud noises. Then don't work at an airport. I mean, when helicopters flying over, that's another
Mhm.
one. Well, then we won't put you into a division that works at or delivers to the airport if that's going to be a trigger for you. You know, it all depends. Sometimes it's like anybody else. It smells. It's children. It's, you name it. You name it.
Yeah, everybody has like different
Yep.
things. And people that aren't in the military can sometimes have triggers over
Oh,
things that they're not even conscious of. You can get
absolutely.
post-traumatic stress syndrome from working in some high pressure careers.
Hmm.
Their doctors and nurses come to mind. Um,
Big time.
that they pick up triggers that they're not even really conscious of, and
Yeah. It's
those are people.
behavior triggers, really. They're
Yeah.
called soft triggers. I just
Mhm.
finished the course on trauma and grief, but
Mhm.
it's fascinating how trauma works in the employment because I have many people that are afraid to go forward. And I'm like, what is that about? Kind of, it was very intriguing to me. And it's a lot of trauma in the childhood. What was said to them, their parents, you'll not amount to anything, or, we're spending a fortune on your education. How dare you leave it? That's a big one. Different cultures, woo, I'm telling you. And it's so sad because they didn't want to do what they were doing in the first place. But how we want to please people, I'd say it's the soft triggers. Like you said, you don't even know about them until they come up. So if you have a very domineering boss, but your father, your mother was very strict or loud, and you didn't get to say anything, that is not good for you in the employment if you have a toxic employee that belittles you and gets away with it too.
Mhm.
You're traumatized every day. So you don't want to do well, or subconsciously, if you have somebody in an interview that is very forceful, that's going to shy you away. You won't ask the questions that you're supposed to. So there's little traumas and triggers all along in life, but yeah, it's just realizing them. Yeah.
And it is possible to find even jobs. You don't have to like go out and start your own business in order to
No,
escape all of these things. You can find jobs out there that do align with you and your personality and make you feel like you're significant because we all need to feel like we matter at the end of the day.
absolutely. Absolutely. So I had a client once, and this is interesting. He he was a mechanic for high-end like Ferraris and everything else.
Mhm.
And physically and emotionally, he was getting a little tired of that. And I said, "What are you passionate? What do you really love?" And he goes, "I just love animals. I really do. I love dog adoptions." And I said, "You know that Subaru is a big leader in pets and dog adoptions?" And he goes, "No, I had no idea." I said, "Do you think that you could do some mechanics or designing of interiors to transport these animals?" He goes, "I never thought about that before." Bingo. He did his investigation down the line, excuse me. And sure enough, he got into, because he had such an extensive engine mechanic repair career, he got into transportation of the animals. And now he gets to see the dogs united with people that adopted them. And he said, that is the best feeling ever for me. So that's that alignment. Sometimes it's not the primary thing that you do, but the secondary thing that comes out of it. It's so awesome to see sometimes. It really is.
It's so amazing. And we all have gifts and skills and superpowers that and dreams,
Yeah,
that that we are put here to fulfill and you don't have to deny them just because you need a paycheck. They
right.
they can all be incorporated together and and it's
I
never too
agree.
late to start.
Oh, goodness gracious. There's some of my friends that are starting to write books and they're in their 60s. Who says there's an age limit to any of this? It's
I know
ridiculous to think that way.
women in
Absolutely.
their 70s that are starting their first businesses. The
Yeah.
number one, I heard this, I think it might have been Alex Hermosi who mentioned this, but the number one roofing company is run by an 82-year-old woman.
Oh, see?
I'm like, you go, girl.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I
I
think
really feel like,
sometimes you have to live a life of the
mhm.
ups and downs to really attract something new in your life. You have to go through stuff sometimes to get it, to
Yeah, I
really
think
put it
maybe
out
that's why
there.
we go through trauma when we're kids. Nobody gets out of childhood without some trauma wound.
I totally agree that. And I wasn't really aware of that because I thought, oh, my childhood's great and blah, blah, blah. Then things come up and you go, wow, I think it wasn't so great after all. Nothing major, but this little component made you not speak up, or this one made you afraid of that. We all got it going on. Once you identify it, you can conquer it. Like we talked before, it's all up in what you tell yourself, and you can work through anything. You really can. I'm not
Yeah.
saying real deep depression needs counseling and possibly pharmaceutical help, but what you think about therapist and what you're trying to do for yourself and saying these medicines are great for me now, maybe I'll wean myself off of them with permission or whatever. It's all in your mindset. You can say this is for my better good, or I'm a loser, I have to be on this. It's all what we say. It's all what we say. Mhm.
Yeah, it's how we identify
Yeah,
and our
absolutely.
what we do drives our identities. And as we do more things that align with who we are and really inspire us to keep at it, we become this person in it, and we make such a difference.
Right.
When
It's
you're
true.
doing something that you don't really want to be doing, or that's causing you stress in your life, you don't show up your best.
You don't show up at all, really. How sad is that, right?
Very sad.
All this brilliance laying deep inside of us, and what happens when it doesn't come out? The world's lost just a little sparkle. Yeah, it's
Yeah, in
true.
some cases, it's a big sparkle. I think if everybody were doing what they were supposed to be doing and pursuing their dreams and passions and making the difference they were sent here to make, this world would be an amazing place. Everyone would be happy and there wouldn't be wars, because people don't inherently wake up and say, "Hey, I want to go kill somebody today."
Well, you figure if you could, oh, I don't want to get into political, but if you put the leaders, and almost all leaders that get into war had some kind of major dysfunction in their lives, and that's why they are who they are. They might have inherited some psychological issues too. But why not just put them in the forefront and leave the citizens alone, you know? You want to work this out? Go ahead. But anyway,
Yeah, I'm
it's
with
true.
you. I think they're all kind of crazy.
Oh, anyway.
I envision a world where there aren't any borders and there aren't any
Yeah.
political leaders. I'm an anarchist, like an actual anarchist. I
Yeah.
believe everybody should be responsible for themselves. I don't really care what you believe or not believe.
Right.
You should just be kind to others.
But that's where did you learn that kindness? You must have had examples when you were younger to be an empathetic person. If you grew up with not seeing any kind of happiness, positivity, nurturing, then you're a product of that and you have to learn it. We soak in the energies. I mean, I had, great parents for the most part, and their friends were wonderful. I saw generosity, I saw volunteering, I saw calmness. So I learned that. But if that wasn't the case, who would I be? We're a product of our environment. Can we change it? You better believe we can change it. Many people come from dysfunction, and that's what propels them to greatness and changing the world because they didn't get the products or the nurturing that they so desperately needed. But you have to have a switch that goes off and going, wait a minute, I missed that. It's
Yeah,
interesting.
it is interesting. I do believe people can change,
Yeah,
and I do believe the trauma is there to help you as a catalyst to make you look at what you're doing and to push you towards what you're supposed to be doing.
right.
And if you get stuck in it, it becomes dysfunction. But if
Exactly.
you're not stuck in it, if you can find ways to move through it, then you can actually blossom and be the person you're supposed to be.
I totally agree. I totally agree. I see it all the time with my clients. It's just an underlining theme. These brilliant people. I had a doctor, a brilliant person. She was remarkable. She had published books. She had three offices. She had a job that she was considering in another state. She was in a marriage that was very controlling. This was a cultural kind of environment where women weren't really regarded, but if it was a man, he would be king. And she doubted. I was sitting there going, I can't believe I'm hearing this. I don't think I'm worthy of this next environment. And what happens with my husband? He's so controlling and blah blah blah. What do you want to do? She had never even considered what she would want to do. She used her high achievement to get noticed by her parents. That was her whole MO. I want to be recognized. Please say and validate me. I've done all this good work for people. And she loved being a doctor, but I don't think she would have excelled that much if it wasn't desperately seeking the affections and attention from her parents. And she
You
couldn't
probably
make a
were never
decision.
able to give it to her because they had their own trauma issues.
Oh, big time. Big time. I said, well, if you get divorced, your children will have quality time with you without the husband along. She had never thought about that. She just thought that, it wasn't going to work and stuff like that. I said, well, I don't know whether she took that position or not. It was like the greatest honor you could possibly. I mean, we're talking high up end stuff. And I just like, how can you not know how brilliant you really are? And I'm not talking book brilliant. I'm talking about the brilliance that shines from helping people and what she's done for herself. She didn't see it at all.
That's so
It's just,
sad, really.
it is. It is. It is. I found people who just are the everyday, sweet, kind people more successful than the ones that make the money because money has nothing to do with your success. It comes from in here. It's that feeling you have about doing a good deed for somebody. That's where it comes from. That's your success. It's not money driven. It's great to be able to support yourself and get your daily needs. Don't misunderstand me. But when I see people that are only going for jobs because they pay astronomical, these are the questions I ask. Is that going to make you happy? Oh yeah, I'll be able to get vacations. I can pay for my kids' education, do this and buy a boat, materialistic stuff. I'm like, no, I'm not talking about that. Will this feed your soul? Will this bring out all the gifts that you were given from the beginning?
Yeah, I think people don't really look at that. And those are often the people that are already trapped in jobs that their expenses have kind of caught up with their income, and
Right.
they're like pedaling really hard. And so they're just going to dive in deeper
Hmm.
to water they're barely treading water in.
Right. It's true. I This is a hard thing for people to comprehend. Like I run an employment support group. So some of the people come in and they're at the top of the banana level as far as their income level. They've been in there. Let's say they're an engineer and they've been in engineering for a very long time. Let's say they make 150,000 a year.
Mhm.
And then they get laid off. And then they're trying to apply for jobs that are 95,000, 80, 70,000. They're like, one, they're insulted, and two, they're like, I can't live on that. But then along comes a job that after coaching, they're like really excited about it. And it pays like 70,000, which other people would be like, I'll take it. They're not used to it. They think it's insulting. But I said, what matters most to your health from this moment on? Being enriched and doing something positive for somebody, or going back to the corporate 9 to 5, the stress level that you felt when you were there. You tell me. Well, and they try to talk themselves out of it, but honestly, one or two have taken that lower income job and being the happiest they have ever been. And like we talked about, when you're happy, you attract happiness. They have more leads and more things that they're doing now than they ever did before. And they go, oh, what was I thinking? Well, it's a scare, it's a fear factor type thing. That's for sure. But
And
where does it
it-
want? Go
it's the
ahead.
ability to change, because you're not going to live the same way
No.
in that. And, maybe you have this huge house that you have to have this horrible job in order to maintain.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying everybody who has a huge house has this problem, but
No.
sometimes downsizing a little bit improves the quality of your life in so many ways that you
Oh,
can't even imagine.
I
I've
totally
lived in
agree.
huge houses,
Mhm.
like 5,000 square foot houses
Wow.
with millions of bedrooms and 5 bathrooms.
Mm.
And I've lived in really small houses. The house I
Oh,
live in right now is just perfect. It's 1,400 square feet.
yep. Same with
I
me.
can clean it in 2 hours. We're talking like really clean.
Wow. I'm impressed.
I was a cleaning lady at one point in my life too.
Yeah, so you can identify. This is a cleaning business. I was like,
Yeah.
organization, just get with it. And when it's done, you feel so much better. It's like relieving that clutter, baby. You just get it out and you're like, "Oh, I feel like a weight has been lifted off of me." Yep, it's true. It is
Yep.
true. But
And
there's always ways that you can devise, like like we were telling, like I was telling that person in my employment group, do you need two homes? Or, maybe your son or daughter can move into that second home and take over the payments for it. There are options. It's not the end of the world. What would you
yeah,
say to your children if they were in the same position? That gets a lot of people going, well, I would never talk to them that way. And I'm like, then why are you talking to yourself that way? So there's always options. Always
there
options.
are always options. And going for, what's gonna make you light up and sing is like
Ah, there you
it's the
go.
best.
I agree. I agree.
So how do people get in touch with you, Anne? They want to
Oh my
work with you
goodness.
or
Well, I do a lot. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. They can go to my website. They can email me. Um, to be honest with you, I do a lot of volunteer work. So if they want to, I do this ESGR program, Employer Supported in the National Guard and Reserve. So that's in Rhode Island, even though I live in Massachusetts. And talk about being aligned with the right things. That has brought me more clients because I'm in the element of the military and I've been doing it for about 12 years. I now know what they go through. They've opened up to me, so I have more information on where they come from and their training and why and everything else. And I also do mentoring for the ACP, American Corporate Partners. So I get a soldier or a veteran every year to mentor through the business and what they're going through. And through that, I've gotten clients. But I would honestly say I'm on Facebook, but I'm on under Ann Crawford, and I have that pretty closed down. So if they want to see the other side of Ann, other than professional, they can find me there. And I think if they sent me a message saying, I know Jill Hart, I heard from you, I will accept the friendship. Otherwise, there's no way they can get to me on that one. I'm on Instagram too, but the bulk is if they look for me on LinkedIn, they'll find me.
that's
They'll
really the
read about what I'm all about.
the kind of place that you would think that you would go if you were like looking for a career transition or
Well,
trying
definitely
to find.
LinkedIn then. Definitely
Yeah.
LinkedIn. Yeah.
So we'll be sure and put those links in the show notes. So what's
Thank
the one
you.
thing you'd like to leave the audience with today, Anne? What's the one thing you'd hope they'd take away from this conversation?
I think everybody, you've got so much potential inside of you, but that key word is options. I think when we have options, no matter if you're buying a car, a house, a career, or an emotional partnership, if you really take the moment, sit back and go, I'm in charge of my options here. I'm going to ask questions so that I can feel safe in the decisions that I make. That's key. I really do.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining me.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It's been great.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another empowering episode of the U World Order Showcase podcast. We hope you've enjoyed hearing from our incredible life, health, and transformational coaches who are making a profound impact on the world. Remember, change begins with you, and you have the power to transform your life and the lives of others. If you want to take that next step and unlock your true potential, visit thecoachesalchemist.com, where you can find the 3 ways we can help you for free to spin your talent into gold with clarity, a system, and a plan. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an inspiring episode. And if you enjoyed today's show, we'd greatly appreciate it if you could leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback means the world to us and helps us reach more people with our positive message. Stay connected with us on social media for updates, behind-the-scenes content, and upcoming guest announcements. You can find us on Facebook at The U World Order or simply visit thecoachesalchemist.com.